Welcome to the VIP Exchange, Champions in the Chaos, with Steven Iwersen, a program for people who want to turn the chaos of business and life into positive outcomes and forward momentum. Welcome to VIP Exchange, Champions in the Chaos. I'm Steven Iwersen, your host, and I'd like to welcome my friend and my colleague of many years. Yes, it's been many years. You can't tell by the look because we look so young, but we've known each other for a long time. Please help me welcome Devin Henderson, CSP.
Hello, Steven. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
It's my pleasure. I remember years ago when we first met, you were just beginning to make a shift from the world of magic to the world of speaking. And we had some coffee and we had some good conversations. It's been fun to watch how your career has just launched in that direction. But the transitions got a little bumpy at times, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Still feel like I'm in that transition. You know, like I feel like all of life is just one big giant transition.
No.
But I value that time when, you know, now I'm getting reflective. I'm thinking back to my first chapter meeting and getting to hear you speak and just thinking, okay, that's a masterful speaker right there. That guy is a good storyteller. And I still remember that story you told about being a kid, dropping the flashlight down the hole, going to the outhouse at night. Like that's that's how powerful that story was. He did not pay me to say this. I don't even know if, I hope you still tell that story because it was just like, I was on the edge of my seat. Good storytelling. So that was one of those, okay, I've got a long way to go here with developing stories and content. So thank you for giving me a kick in the pants right out the gate, Steven.
Well, thank you. And you are a great storyteller too. I've seen that develop quite a bit. You know, I'm just going to jump right in and ask you what inspired you or led you to want to be on this program today?
Yeah. First of all, to get to hang with you. Everything you do is done with excellence. So it's an honor to be here and chat with you, Steven. Also, that whole overcoming adversity thing. You know, when I hear those words, my ears perk up, you know, like a dog, just like, did someone say overcoming adversity? Only because my life, one of the themes of my life has been resilience. I love the idea of working for things, of going past the point where most people want to quit, being like, I'm just going to keep going and see what happens. And I thrive on the failure, you know, the temporary failure where you say, okay, that didn't work out. Now let's try it again and just keep going. And I believe some of us are born with that resilience factor, and other people are not necessarily born. It's not in their nature, but they can be taught that. And so that is why I figure I have this. I'm going to show other people how they can apply some of these principles to their life too.
So give me some examples of how you've overcome adversity.
Yeah, I mean, well, I've had so many things in my life that I've been able to apply this to, right? So you know this, maybe the listeners may not. I'm a lifelong performer. You know, been doing magic since I was a kid. Stand-up comedy requires a lot of resilience. Get up, do it again. Not to mention, you know, the keynote speaking thing,
Yes.
performing on big stages across the country. But then also just marriage, you know, 15 years of marriage requires that, keep going. Things are hard, you know, and we have, as you know, quite a few kids. We have more than a handful. We have 7 kids total. So that requires a lot of patience, resilience, you know, perfection is not an option type mentality, but just doing your best and keep going. And then also just getting the chance to take my magic to one of the biggest talent stages in the world. So all of these things, you know, just my whole life has been about teaching me how to be resilient and to never give up.
Well, one of the things I've appreciated about you, Devin, is that you have this tenacity to stick with something that at first looks difficult or impossible to other people, but somehow deep down inside you know that if you stick with it and you face the failures, like the comedy, you bomb, okay, well then I got to change that joke up a little bit, set it up a little different way, or maybe even drop it out, but you keep at it. The keynote speaking, all of those things, you have a discipline of staying focused on what I believe is your purpose and learning to adapt. And I've said this before for a lot of interviews, and I use it in my own keynote, that adaptability today is more important than ability. There's a lot of people who have the same abilities, but it's the ones who make the little adjustments and they adapt to what's going on that actually get some traction. And I think that's part of your DNA. Would you say so?
Yeah, I like that. When it comes to achievement, a lot of times you hear people say the hardest part is getting started. And maybe, because trying new things, doing things that scare you, it can be difficult. But maybe the hardest part is sticking with it. Right? You know about my soccer juggling story. Juggling a soccer ball, trying to see how many times you can bounce it. And my record is, higher than anything I ever imagined I could or would get to. And when I think back to when I was 7 years old and I started that soccer juggling journey, everyone at soccer camp was happy to kick the ball the first time. Oh, let's try it. Let's go. But not very many were willing to pick it up, and not just once, but over and over again, right? And very few were willing to continue to pick up the ball months, years later, right? And so I think it is that adaptability thing. As you drop it, you say, okay, why did I drop the ball that time? Oh, it's because I angled my foot the wrong way. Maybe if I pick it up and try, oh yeah, there we go. So I absolutely, because at first we had all about the same ability. We had zero. We couldn't even do two kicks, But then adapting to it, I love that, Steven. That's gold, man. Totally agree.
Okay, now I've got to pause because I know some folks who are watching or listening heard you say 7 kids.
Yes.
And they're probably just dying wanting me to say, really? 7 kids?
7.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so 7 kids. Would you like to see a picture?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
Here's the crazy thing. Okay, it's not just 7 kids, it's 7 daughters. So, yeah.
They're all beautiful.
Thank you. I know it's what we do, man. And people look at that and they're like, "Hey, you trying for that boy?" I'm like, "Do we look like quitters?" We're gonna get our boy. And yeah, it's crazy. Right now we have a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old, and it's absolutely insane, Steven. It's so crazy, but as crazy as it is, it's equally, if not more, rewarding. And my family is the biggest part of my life. And I touch on every time I can't get on stage or on a podcast or on a Zoom call without talking about my kids because of just that, the positivity they bring to me. And as long as my perspective is in check and I remember how thankful I am for them, everything else, it really helps with that resilience and keep going with it aspect. It's like, man, I have this treasure in my life, Life is good.
Right. Okay, now, do you see your resiliency, your model, the makeup that kind of drives you to keep at things, do you see that in your kids?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So one of my daughters is, juggling a soccer ball. So she's seeing how high she can get. And she's, I think, at 27.
Okay.
And I remember when she's...
Watch out, your record's going to fall.
Yeah, I know. I got to up my record again, right? And many of the kids are, they're learning violin, they're learning piano. And my oldest daughter, forgive a proud father, but she just landed a role in a play, in a high school play. So she's Mrs. Gulch in The Wizard of Oz. And this is her first audition ever. It was absolutely incredible, that she practiced really hard. She's like, I'm going to go for the witch. She didn't get the witch. Right, but she got Mrs. Gulch. And so it's one of those, she didn't get this, but keeping the attitude of thankfulness, gratefulness, well, at least I get this, when a lot of people didn't even get like a major role in the play at all. And I think that's what gives you the power the next time to come back and be like, okay, what can I adjust? What can I adapt to take it to the next level? And that's what I'm always, trying to instill in my kids. There's always a next level of greatness we can attain to. You got to keep working for it.
Yeah.
They're picking it up. They're very, very tenacious, very resilient.
I raised 3 boys, and
very different world, right?
Very different world. Yeah, completely different world. We replaced the front window of the house multiple times after baseballs went through them.
I believe it.
Yeah, so I got pretty good at that. two of the boys picked up skateboarding. Now, when I was young, a skateboard was old skate wheels from skates that you dismantled and that you screwed to the bottom of a board. And you used it as a mode of transportation.
Okay.
That was it. My boys had to spend the money on the really fancy skateboards that were inspired by Tony Hawk, some of those skaters. Yeah. And it wasn't a mode of transportation. It was art. It was sport. It was, all of these acrobatic kinds of things. And they would go down to the skate park and over again fall and hit hard on that pavement. And then they'd get up and scrape themselves off and do it again. And I just watch and going, I wouldn't do this. Number one, it hurts. They will tell you that the funniest story ever of their dad was when he took one of their skateboards on the flat of a skate park and started to skate across to show them that I could skate. And I didn't see it, but I hit a pistachio shell. Oh. And when those wheels hit things they just immediately stop. Yeah, now the boys will tell you that it was like watching Fred Flintstone cartoons, because apparently I went horizontal and then smack. Yeah. And I had my car keys in my pocket, and I literally had the shape of a key bruise on the side of my hip from that. That was the last time I was on a board. But their tenacity and that drive to be resilient and to land that stuff, I think kids deep down inside really have this desire and need to do that, but they don't always have the encouragement to keep at it, because most of us adults go, well, why are you doing that? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. It's wasting your time. But I tried to make sure that my experience wasn't limiting their new experience, and they took it to a whole new level. You find that happening with you and your children?
Yes, and I'm trying to get the picture of you horizontal in my mind, out of my mind.
Okay, all right.
That's pretty hilarious. I hate to say it.
They wish they had a photo. I know they do, but it's not going to happen.
Park, you kind of like, yours was mode of transportation. You went to get groceries on your skateboard. They're just flipping around. And you're like, well, you guys aren't even going anywhere.
Yep.
My kids, absolutely, and I believe the encouragement piece is huge. Encouraging them all along the way, even with the small things, when they're drawing pictures when they're young, that encouragement, good job, great job. And I just see that grow. And you don't talk to them so much like you would talk to a 3-year-old when they're 14. But there's still that pat on the back. There's a text, I'm proud of you, I love you, you're doing great. And I can see that still speaks into them. Even if a teenager just kind of, whatever, thanks, it's sinking in, and it's making a difference. So, but I do know what you mean by kids. There's that saying, kids are resilient, and I think kids just have this natural drive because they're curious. That's something we adults have kind of lost, but they want to see if they have what it takes, and so they're gonna go after it. They're gonna do it. They're gonna do whatever it takes to make it happen, even if their dad's like, from a different skateboarding era. At least
that's right.
Like you said, to not let that limit their creativity and their vision. So, good job.
So, is curiosity the part that kind of drives you in regards to the stand-up comedy? I mean, personally, I've thought about doing stand-up, but I like to fail in private. I don't want to do it on a stage in front of a group of people. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, I can't say curiosity was necessarily a factor. I am curious by nature. I don't think that's what drove my stand-up comedy. Really what got me into it was I had been doing magic forever, and I thought, what would it be like to get up and entertain people with no props, no magic? Do I have what it takes to just tell jokes, tell stories, be myself, and be funny? I think so. That was more the initial part of it, right? Okay. Now, over time, when you're trying out, you're doing open mics and you're bombing, and then you're getting back up. I thrive again off of that. Things didn't go well. I'm sick to my stomach. I hate this. I want to quit. And then wake up the next morning with, I am going to be the next Jim Gaffigan. And I can't explain it, but it's just in me to just hop back up and be like, let's go do this again. And not just because I'm a glutton for punishment, right? That's not what it's not like. I just want to get beat up. It's because I'm like, I know that there's adjustments and things that I can adapt to to make it better the next time. And so I have this vision for how great things can be if you put in the work daily, weekly, monthly, over the years, you know. But these things just take time, you know, time plus perseverance.
Right. So what's the payoff in stand-up comedy that drives you past that failure, that sick to the stomach, that, oh, I can't stand this, to go and do it again?
Yeah. Well, and just as a side note, you know, stand-up comedy for me kind of became a passion embedded into my speaking and my magic for about a 5-year period, you know, and the real passion for it ended maybe like 2 years ago. But in that 5-year stint where I just wanted to really be a funnier speaker and do straight stand-up comedy, what was the question?
What was it? What was? We just bombed.
I just bombed, yeah, but
boom.
I'm ready to
there it
get
is.
back up and go at it.
What's the payoff that makes you want to get past all that stuff that's not so pleasant?
The payoff. I mean, the payoff is when the audience is laughing, they're engaged, you're connecting, they're giving you applause breaks. It makes all of that work worth it, right? Because you're like, I knew it. I knew I could do it. I knew that I didn't bomb all those times for nothing. It was for this right now. And then you have to be aware enough that, well, you're probably going to bomb again sometime, or things aren't maybe going to go this well again, but that's okay. Put this experience in your back pocket. Remember this for when things aren't quite as well down the road a little bit. You can look back to this because you know if you keep at it, you're going to have that experience again, if not an even better experience. So that's the payoff, that feeling of I'm giving people joy. They're laughing. We're connecting. This is finally clicking. This is finally working.
Yeah. Okay. Now, forgive me, everyone who's watching or listening, but I'm gonna just add a little extra here. There's something else about Devin that I think keeps him moving towards that big payoff. And it's the fact that when people laugh, he's bringing joy. He's helping them to maybe forget all the other stuff that's going on in life to just be able to enjoy a moment. And the value of giving to help others is a big deal in his world. And he didn't pay me to say that, but I know that's true. And I think that's also another piece. Would you say that's true, Devin?
Absolutely. One of the biggest things in my life that drives me, I said my family's my biggest thing. Really, even bigger, if I were to zoom out, would be my faith, right? That we're meant to love people as ourselves. That especially right now more than ever, people are out there hurting. People are quitting. They're giving up. They're giving in many ways. And what are little things that people like you and I can do, and in fact anyone can do, Steven, to cheer someone up, right? And there's many ways we can make them laugh. We can give them a tip that's going to help them stay mentally strong and mentally well through what you like to talk about, the chaos, how to be a champion in the chaos. But there's other ways to give. You know, we can give of our resources, we can give of our time, give of our money to make a difference for people, and that's really what all this is about. You know, when whatever your platform is, whatever you're doing, it's to make people feel well up here, right?
Right.
So that they can perform, they can do their thing. But I think there's just something so much bigger than ourselves that we're serving here. You know, and that's where my faith comes in. That it's like, there's just something so much bigger than me that I want to give to. You know.
Good. Well. The other thing that you mentioned earlier was that you actually performed on the biggest talent show stage that we know of. And I wondered if you would give us a little insight of what took place in that experience. And I know the story. There's a little chaos in there.
Sure.
Could you give us a little summary of what that's about?
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to share it. Well, thanks for asking. Yeah, you know, back in 2014, at that point, I had been performing professionally for about 10 years, right? And things were going well. You know, I was traveling the country. I was performing on bigger stages. I was even a keynote speaker at that time, so in front of awesome organizations. But there was still that part of me that was like, when am I going to get my big break, right? Like, when is something big going to happen? Because at that point, I had also been producing YouTube videos for about 5 years featuring my magic. and you just wonder, when is someone going to notice? And so that's right when I got the call from America's Got Talent. And so what happened was, one day, totally out of the blue, again, this is in 2014, they reached out to me and said, Devin, we found some of your videos on YouTube. We love your stuff. Will you come to Hollywood and audition for season 9? And so you mentioned there was chaos. There's always chaos going on up here. I was like honored, right? Steven, I was excited, but at the same time I was like, man, I could fail, right? Like I could bomb on the biggest stage in the world and on TV. But that determination, that grit, everything we've been talking about, that even the curiosity factor was like, what is this going to be like? Like, what if this changes my life? So that's what pushed me to go do it. That was just in my nature. So I went, and this was a few months later. They flew me to Hollywood, put me up in a nice hotel, and before I know it, I'm backstage at the Dolby Theater where they were filming auditions, and I walked out onto the stage. Now, this was like the biggest audience I've ever performed in front of up to that time, right? It was 5,000 people. Not to mention, these 5,000 people were sitting right behind Howard Stern, Heidi Klum, Mel B, and Howie Mandel. So I went out there and performed my magic, and a couple of things made it special to me. And the first thing that made it special was I was apparently the first person in the history of America's Got Talent to bring people from the audience onto the stage, right? Like live audience participation. Not the judges, but just random people. So that was pretty cool that they allowed me to do that. And the second thing that made it special was I did one of my most difficult tricks. And it's one of those tricks that has a lot of unpredictable elements, but if everything goes right, then it has a really high payoff. So it was a little bit of a risk, but I nailed it. I mean, it just was awesome, right? And then the third thing that made it special to me in this situation was the crowd. I mean, there was I had never experienced the energy of 5,000 people, right? So you got that, you got the judges, you got the cameras, the lights. I mean, it was totally surreal. And then the audience, they were engaged, we were laughing together. And at the end, they just erupted in applause. And up to that moment, it was the highest moment of my career. It was absolutely incredible, So then I'm sure you watch the show, it gets turned over to the judges at that point, right? And so Mel B, said, I'll do my best Mel B impression. She says, so Devin, what exactly do you want from America's Got Talent? And I so badly wanted to say, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. But I didn't. Didn't want to spice things up.
You should have.
Yeah. Maybe I should have. And so then she said, I was expecting something more spectacular. And imagine the shock. I was like, wait, were you watching the same performance? Because the audience seemed to love it. What's going on, right? But then Heidi loved it. Heidi was like, I loved it. It was amazing. So I'm like, well, I'm getting some mixed messages. She's like, what's happening, right? And then Howard Stern said, great trick, I wish I could do that. But he said, I'm not sure that trick plays to this big of a crowd, right? So it's sort of like a venue trick choice. And I was like, okay. And then Howie Mandel said, I have friends who do a similar routine to the one you did, but they do it better. And that was it. They voted me off right then. Complete shocker to me. I went from the highest moment of my career seconds ago to go home, So I went home, and, you talk about you're doing a series on overcoming adversity. A lot of this adversity is up here, man. There's so many different kinds. And for me, it was mental. And I always wondered what it was like when I watched reality TV shows. The people who get sent home, what's their story? How do they feel? And now I know. I'm like, well, you feel like a failure. You feel like you want to give up. You feel totally devastated. And you want to quit. And that's honestly where I was. I wanted to quit magic. It affected me that deeply. I wanted to take all my props, just throw them into the ocean and be like, I'm done with magic forever. I'm going to quit. That's where it put me. So.
But you didn't quit.
I did not quit.
Okay.
I did not quit.
Why did you not quit?
Yeah, so in that moment, I I knew I had a choice, to quit or to keep going, obviously. And now this experience has really kind of become a signature story in the sense that I've turned it into a keynote that I share to give other people hope, because everyone has this America's Got Talent story to a degree, right? Mm-hmm. We've all felt that. We've brought our best to a situation, but then we got the exact opposite response of what we were hoping for, or we've just been at that point where we want to quit. Mm-hmm. So what I discovered through that experience is what I like to share with people. And so since you ask, I'll share it now. It's something that transformed the way that I was feeling, right? And it can transform anyone, no matter what they're feeling, no matter what they're going through. And I call it the AGT Perspective. Okay, so AGT, where's that? Well, AGT as in America's Got Talent, right? But then after what happened with that experience, those words caused me pain. So I knew I needed to redefine what the letters meant so that I could see new possibilities again and to keep going. And so now AGT means this: always give thanks. And yes, it's crazy simple, but insanely powerful, because that whole gratitude, that thankful piece, and I'm sure you can attest to this, Steven, when you learn to be thankful, for whatever you have to be thankful for me, my family, my faith, my friends, something liberating, something almost magical and unexplainable happens, right? So many things just kind of fall into place, and things like you just begin to accept what happened, right? Mm-hmm. The past is what it is, and you can't change it, so don't complain about it, don't make excuses. And also, you start to let go of any regret of mistakes that you made along the way. Because what I found, thankfulness helps me kind of zoom out and think about maybe this was supposed to happen. Like, what was the greater reason for this happening? Because maybe there's a plan set out for me, and that wasn't the best thing that could have happened in my life at that time. And then also, you realize that you learn through these circumstances, right? And one of the biggest things I learned is when you have this perspective of gratitude, you get to choose how you look at situations. And for me, it helped me again remember about failure. Something that I've been dealing with my whole life, with the bombing and with a soccer ball, dropping the soccer ball, picking it up again, doing tricks for people as a kid that didn't fool them, failing over and over and over again. This was like the pinnacle of failure for me in my life, and it just showed me that failure is not a dead end. Right? It's a fork in the road. And a lot of people get to that fork and they don't go the right way. They just go the wrong way, because I found that you can choose the path of growth over the self-destructive path. Mm-hmm. In other words, you can choose to let failure make you, not break you. Right. That makes sense? Yeah. You let it hone you, not own you, carry you, not bury you. Mm-hmm. I got a lot of these. You can choose to let it revitalize you, not paralyze you, bless you, not depress you, revive you, not deprive you. But here's the most important one. If you go down the healthy path, you can let failure refine you, not define you. And you can choose to be the kind of person that is never going to stop being thankful. So in short, gratitude is what helped me keep going.
Wow. I know right now probably the number one, or close to the number one topic that people want to really learn from and understand is resiliency. Mm-hmm. I think you just defined it. That it's gratitude that helps us to really find our resilient muscle, and to pick ourselves up and to keep going and to give us that perspective. I really do appreciate that. That's awesome. Well, we're going to wrap it up in just a second, but before I do, I want to make sure that people know how they can get a hold of you, how they can connect with you. Maybe they want to have you come and do a keynote or make a presentation for their business, for their employees, or just connect and find out a little more about Devin Henderson. So how would they go about doing that?
Sure. One thing you can do is just go to my website, devinhenderson.com. It's a great way to connect. You can read more about, some of my personal story, and look for answers about details of my keynote. Also, I do about a monthly or quarterly newsletter, and it's called Something Greater is Always Possible. And very easy to sign up for. You just text the word greater to 66866. So this newsletter contains things about keeping what I call a possibility mindset, right? And never stop asking what else is possible. So you can always keep going, keep that grit, that mental strength. And so it's really meant to, keep you in a place of wellness and so that you never give up. So
Very good.
there you go.
Very good.
Yeah.
And we need more of that kind of input to offset all the other negative stuff that keeps popping up
Absolutely.
on our social media feeds. So
Yeah.
people take advantage of that. You won't be disappointed. Final words are yours. If someone's watching or listening right now and they're just kind of feeling like they got knocked down, they're a little discouraged, what's your word to them as they start to look ahead at the future?
Yeah. My word is this, okay? And I'm going to use the graphic so that it puts a picture in your mind. Pick up the ball. Like if there's nothing else you get from today, I hope gratitude is one that you'll take away. But pick up the... Now, what do I mean by pick up the ball? Okay? Well, this idea came from my soccer juggling journey about that ball is going to hit the ground over and over. I've dropped that ball probably infinity times, give or take. And there's times I've been so frustrated that I wanted to quit. I wanted to kick the ball through a window. I would yell out in frustration, or I just never want to kick the ball again. And life is going to be full of this. Setbacks, uncertainty, failure, disappointments, people who let us down, us letting ourselves down. But picking up the ball means to take action consistently, no matter what. That you never give up in spite of challenges along the way, and you never give up no matter how many times you drop the ball.
Great words. Great words. Well, Devin, if you didn't know this, I'm one of your biggest fans. I didn't make the trip to be in the AGT audience because I didn't know you were there, but I probably would have tried if I had known. And I am now even a bigger fan, having had this time to visit with you. And so thank you very much for joining me on VIP Exchange.
Thank you for having me, Steven. The feeling's mutual. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.